talking to the average American, because I get these comments. I get comments and I get messages from people in the U.S. And, they're not in a position to leave. They're not in a position to leave America. Because let's be realistic. That's for the overwhelming majority of people in that country, they're not going to be able to immigrate out of that country. They can't afford to move cross town, much less across the world, much less to a foreign country. Even paying for a passport for most Americans is going to set them back in their budget. So this isn't realistic. But they can see what's happening. They can see what's happening in their country. They can see everything that I've talked about in my content. They can see that the domestic war is underway. And see, we're not talking about a civil war. Because in a civil war, at least there's two sides. There's two sides to it. This is a civil siege. You're under siege. This is a war to occupy and to enslave you. That's what this is. And there's no real way to prevent you from seeing what's happening. If you're in America, if you're an average American person, you can see what's happening. All they can do is try to confuse you about why it's happening so that you won't understand that what you think you're seeing is actually what you think you're seeing. In other words, they're besieging you. They are besieging you. But they might be able to make you think that they're doing something else. Like it looks like a siege, but maybe they're actually up to something else. Like they're saving you from an immigrant invasion. Or they're saving you from radical, woke, neo-Marxist feminists or something like this, right? They'll come up with all different explanations for what they're doing. They're saving you from Antifa terrorists, or they're saving you from China, or they're saving you from Russia. We have to destroy the farmers because that's the only way that we can defeat China. We have to shut down that Hyundai plant, factory, so that we can make sure that Americans won't get trained and won't get jobs, won't get skills, all so that we can weaken Russia. We have to make it too expensive to drill for oil because of Hamas. We need to attack Portland, Oregon. Because of the cartels. This is nonsense. And they know that most of you know this is nonsense, but it doesn't matter because the more they have you in a chokehold, the less important it is for them to try to convince you that they're giving you the Heimlich maneuver because they've already got you in a chokehold. So they don't need to get your consent. So it can be outlandish. It doesn't matter. Their reasons can be outlandish. They can even tell you it's because of UFOs at this point, and you'll go along with it. But they can't make you not feel what's happening. You will feel what's happening. You are feeling what's happening. So they can't confuse you about what you're feeling, but they can confuse you about why it's happening. And as long as they can confuse you about why it's happening, then you won't do anything about it. Because you know that you're under siege. You can feel it every time you walk into a store. The prices are climbing like a fever. Your whole life in that country is measured in swipes, measured in fees. It's measured in an endless succession of small humiliations. And this is never addressed, never seriously talked about at all. You're told this is just the way it is. This is just the market. It's not the market. This is management. This is deliberate. None of this is arbitrary. This isn't, down to natural forces. The invisible hand of the market isn't the wind. This is a hand that's controlling distribution, it's controlling purchasing, it's controlling pricing, it's controlling wages. It controls who gets what and who goes without. And it's not invisible either. Fact of the matter, you just don't see it. The only reason you don't see it is because you're always looking somewhere else. They've got you looking over here, and that hand is over there, but it's not invisible. It's not invisible at all. Just because you're not looking at it doesn't mean it's invisible. It's not mysterious, The Walton family, ADM, Cargill, Kroger, Costco, Amazon, Cisco, and of course BlackRock. Everybody knows about these. They're far from invisible. These are the ones who are making the decisions. They're making the decisions about whether or not you can buy your groceries, whether or not you can have anything in your cupboard. Do you know that the median salary for the CEOs of those companies that I just named, the companies that decide how much a can of beans is going to cost you, the CEOs of the companies that decide whether or not you can buy a dozen eggs or some bread, their median annual salary is $16 million. $16 million to decide how much your child's breakfast is going to cost. Astronomical wealth for them, austerity for you. They'll tell you that the cost went up. They'll say it's because of the tariffs. They admit that the costs go up because of the tariffs, they'll say. But somehow their profits also went up. How does that work exactly? I mean, did you ever make money in your life as a result of your costs going up? Did your last rent hike make you richer? When you pay more at the gas pump, does that somehow also...
In an era where voices are loud but truth is buried, one man has decided to speak the uncomfortable truth. Shahid Bolsen, a political analyst and social critic, has delivered a scathing message to Black Americans, exposing how oligarchy and global elites are manipulating their pain, struggles, and identity for profit. He warns that what we often see as liberation may, in fact, be a new form of control. Today, we break down his message, his warning, and what it truly means for the Black community and the world at large. Watch and pay attention, and I will share my thought later.
For them, the costs go up and their profits go up. They raise prices when the inputs rise, but when the inputs fall, they don't change the prices back. That's not market forces. That's deliberate exploitation and price gouging. It's extraction, money from your pocket. You think this is dozens and dozens of separate companies? You know, you think it's a bunch of different companies making all independent, unrelated choices? No, it's the same handful of boardrooms, the same handful of managers, trade associations, the same handful of consultants. And those consultants and those managers and those executives go through a revolving door between Wall Street and Washington and the corporate headquarters. They've got dashboards for your appetite. They've got forecasts for your paycheck, for your pantry, and for your panic. And then they'll script a market response. And when you panic, when your cupboards are empty, when your checks bounce, and you have return check fees, then and you get banned from stores because of your rejected payments, your return checks. I remember that, by the way. I remember that. There was a point when I was a teenager, and my single mother, divorced mother, was working 3 jobs, no child support coming, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to deliver, of all things, the Wall Street Journal to bourgeoisie neighborhoods, and we got banned from like 3 different grocery stores. All of the grocery stores that were within walking distance. We got banned because of return checks from 3 different grocery stores. We had to buy food from the gas station. That was like 35, 40 years ago. It's worse now, for more people now than it was then. And what do you get from your leaders? What do you get from your politicians? You get a lecture about personal responsibility. You need to work harder. You need to budget better. Social media tells you need to hustle more, as if you can out-hustle consolidated purchasing power. As if clipping coupons is a serious countermeasure to corporate collusion that's dressed up as the free market. I mean, it's in the name. It's in the name. Capitalism. You should read that as capital schism, because it's all about who has capital and who doesn't. It's feudalism with a new logo. That's all it is. It's just feudalism with a new logo. And it is the dumbest and the most unsustainable economic system in the world, truly. It truly is. And I know Westerners, because you imagine that everyone has to be and only ever can be an advocate of or a believer in one of your theories, one of your Western theories, one of your Western systems. So you'll say that anyone who says that about capitalism, who's critical of capitalism, well, then they must be a Marxist. They must be a communist. They must be a socialist or what have you. But no, I'm telling you objectively. I'm telling you unbiased, impartially. You have the most dysfunctional, unnatural, stupid system that you could ever imagine, and you can literally only maintain belief in that by stigmatizing and demonizing any critique of it. But like I said, you saying, well, if you're not in favor of capitalism, if you're not in favor of this, then you can only be in favor of that, because these 2 things are the only ideas that exist. No, just because I don't believe in your idea doesn't mean that now you can tell me what I believe in. Because you imagine that only 2 ideas exist, only the ideas that exist in your Western paradigm. No, you need to get out of that mental cage. You need to get out of that ideological cage. And you have to start taking your life more seriously, taking yourself more seriously. I mean, look what they do to you. Look what they do to you. You're no different in reality from someone who's working on someone else's land, a serf. You're generating revenue, you're generating profits. You're producing goods, you're providing services, and you're being taxed. And then after all of that, you're forced to survive on whatever crumbs they condescend to sweep off their table for you. And to keep you from ever focusing on anything real, anything meaningful, you let yourself get caught up in, I don't know, celebrity gossip, what the super rich are getting up to, who wore what to which gala, some new social media trend that makes you do silly things, skincare routines. And while you're struggling to survive, you also have to try to look cute. You have to try to be attractive. Focus on that. You have to try to posture like you're a baller. You have to be witty. You have to pretend to be a life coach, making how to be successful TikTok videos in your car while you don't even know how you're going to pay your auto insurance next month. This is what they do to you. You swim through get rich quick schemes on the internet in the middle of the night, looking for passive income. You end up creating a whole alternate universe online about your happy go-getter boss lifestyle, your alpha lifestyle, or maybe you're some female student in America with some impossible college debt right now. There's some girl, for sure, there's some girl right now in America who dreamed of being a professional, who dreamed of being an academic, who dreamed of being a business owner, who dreamed of being a doctor, but she's sitting somewhere in, I don't know, Illinois or Nebraska or wherever else right now, mulling over whether or not she should just take her clothes off on the internet to survive financially. This is what you did to your people. There's some guy probably in one of the urban centers looking in the window of a department store, looking at some electronic goods that he can't afford to buy and thinking to himself, well, maybe next time there's a riot. Maybe next time there's a riot, because looting is the only way he's ever going to be able to get his hands on that item, because he'll never be able to afford it. Everybody is scamming everybody in that country. You know it and I know it. Everyone is scamming everyone because that whole system is built on scamming. That whole system is built on scamming. So it's never going to teach you any decent ways. It's never going to teach you any decent ways to survive, any decent ways to thrive, any honest ways to thrive. Everything is a funnel that's siphoning the wealth upwards. There's no lateral empowerment. That's not a thing. You and I both know that anyone that you see who's trying to teach you how to get rich quick is just trying to get rich quick off of you, because that's all part of the whole maladjusted mentality of dog eat dog. It's that predatory system, and that predatory system is never going to teach you how to get along with people. That predatory system is never going to teach you how to cooperate with people, how to achieve mutual upliftment between people. It's always going to be extractive. It's always going to be predatory. It's always going to be exploitative. It's that whole so-called civilization that has a pillage mentality, a plunder mentality, a theft mentality, a slaver mentality. You have to break that mindset. There's no shame in being poor. Certainly not in that country. There's no shame in being working class in that country. If you find yourself mocking people who are struggling to survive financially, well, you're nothing but a sycophant for the system that is making them have to struggle, that's making them suffer. You know, I see people online using this word brokies, like an insult, brokies, meaning basically that if you're a brokey, then that means that you are from approximately the 85% of all the American population who do not have a six-figure income. In other words, you're like everybody else. Using the same language and having the same mentality of your class oppressors and using that language and that mentality against each other. Why, it's sick. If you're broke, it's because your economic system is designed to break you. Look at the language that they use. Get ahead. That's what you're struggling to do, right? You're struggling to get ahead. Get ahead of who? Get ahead of everyone else who's struggling just like you? You see how they pit you against each other? Wallahi, as long as they've got you like this, as long as you act like this, as long as you think like this, you're never going to do anything but get devoured by the people who are making you think like this. That's why I keep saying you need to build sufficiency. That's the opposite of isolation. They've got you in isolation. But I'm talking about both individual and collective sufficiency, functional autonomy. This is your only chance. This is your only option. So yes, average American people will ask me. I get these comments, like I started to say, people who do not have the option to get out of that society. It's not feasible, it's not viable for them. And the answer is this. Or anyway, part of the answer is this: community sovereignty. You need to work on community sovereignty, community autonomy. I told you before, look at how the system trains you to be, okay? Look at how they train you to be and train yourself to be the opposite. So they trained you to be isolated. They trained you to compete. They trained you to see your fellow citizens as rivals or as potential resources that you can scam and that you can exploit. So you need to train yourself to build connections, to cooperate, to share, and to uplift one another. These aren't just platitudes. I know it sounds like platitudes, but I'm talking about practical realities. I'm talking about lifestyles. I'm talking about choices. I'm talking about ways of doing things. You're being trained right now to accept scarcity, to be used to scarcity in a so-called land of abundance. Self-isolation in neighborhoods that are full of people who are going through the exact same thing that you are. Anxiety in a country, financial anxiety in a country that has the resources that could literally feed continents. You're not weak. You're just oblivious to your own power. But that innate power is buried under programming and indoctrination and ideologies, and you have to extricate yourself from all of that. You have to dig yourself out of that, and then you need to start digging out all of that latent power that you have. Quietly, legally, peacefully, step by step, starting on your block, the people that you pass every day in the hallway, or even your online community, your online friends and acquaintances. Build a sufficiency zone, piece by piece, step by step, brick by brick, house by house. It's really not that daunting. In fact, this is why they need to so relentlessly program you and propagandize you to not see it, to not know how to do it. Because it's quite straightforward. You can start small. One building, one cul-de-sac, one basement of one masjid. You don't need any permits. You don't need any licenses to just cooperate with each other. You are allowed to do that. Make a group chat with just a handful of your neighbors. Set one clear aim. We want 10 households to buy staple foods together this month and save money. That's all. That's it. That's how you start. We'll all work together to buy some food, to buy some things that everyone needs, rice or flour, cooking oil, eggs, beans, whatever, bread. Check prices at a few different shops. Ask for a case price. Post the price in the chat. Collect your pre-orders. Go together for 1 hour. Lay everything out. Show the receipts. Divide it fairly between everyone who participated, and you go home with your dinner secured and with a little basic level solidarity secured, built. Then you can build a little pantry where you put 2 weeks worth of staples, staple foods. Maybe put a charity pot so that if there's any week when someone can't pay, if they come up short, you can cover that. Rotate the stock, keep the books open so everyone can see full transparency. Have a group of people count the cash. You're teaching yourselves as a community, as a group, trustworthy cooperative habits. And then when this rhythm sort of settles in, when it becomes routine, then you can also at home yourself learn to make a few basic things. If you don't already cook and bake, you could learn how to make bread, how to make tortillas, how to make yogurt, pickles, even other items like cleaners and soap and so forth, all-purpose cleaners and so on. These aren't hobbies. These aren't just crafts. These are economic moves. You understand me? Everything that you can produce for yourself becomes one less dependency, one less way in which you are dependent upon a system that's trying to crush you. And it's skills that your children will inherit. So then you have your group and you meet once a week for an hour, say, you share what you learned, you eat together, you build community, and your children watch, and they understand that adults can solve real problems with their own hands. So now you have built a small community that provides for each other, provide for themselves and provide for each other. That's the first layer of autonomy. Because of course you're still patronizing probably those same big outlet stores, Walmarts and so on. So you need to keep developing. You need to try to change where your money is going. You need to try to find independent wholesalers. You need to look into the so-called ethnic markets that are in your area. Latino store that sells rice by the sack, the Arab store, the halal shop, South Asian shop, African importer, family-run bakeries, and so on. Places that will give you a case price for yesterday's bread, for example. You show up with predictability. We can buy the same item every month from you. So can we lock in a fair price? You're not going there begging, you're going there offering stability. Locate local small farmers, ranches, farmers markets and so on. Try to increase how much of your community supplies their needs from independent providers on a collective basis. That's the next layer. Now start looking beyond your neighborhood. America is not an island. The global South keeps that country alive. Coffee, tea, rice, spices, lentils, dates, cocoa, fruits, vegetables, everything. Most of that value is captured before it ever reaches your plate. You can change that. You can change that by changing your relationships, expanding your relationships, growing your relationships, building bridges. You don't have to become an expert in customs. You don't have to become an expert in logistics. You can use the people who already exist, who are already doing that work. Right to the commercial desk of a consulate, say Indonesian consulate, Mexican consulate, Moroccan consulate, Pakistan, Kenya. We're 12 families in Ohio, and we want to buy a few staple items directly from small producers in your country. We'll start small, we'll start steady. So who do you recommend? Can you recommend anyone? Just ask them. Ask a fair trade directory for contacts. Talk to the people in your local mosque or your local community center who have families overseas. Do you know any family mills or farm co-ops back home that are ready to export? When you find a producer who works for you, do a video call, ask for samples, and so on. It's very straightforward. Ask who in the United States has ever bought from you before. Can we have references? Keep it focused on dry goods in the beginning. Use a freight forwarder that handles just small food shipments and does the paperwork. Place a tiny order, just 5 to 10 cases of whatever it is. Nothing that can hurt you. Distribute it the same way that you distribute your regular group buys from the local producers. And then rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. In time, you'll have a monthly cycle that feels as natural as carpooling. In week 1, you post the offers. In week 2, you collect the pre-orders. In week 3, you receive the goods and divide them up, distribute. No drama, no speeches. Just grown people doing grown people things. Taking care of business, taking care of their families, and building autonomy and building community sovereignty. And eventually you can even start to think about establishing your own, within your, internal to your community level, your own currency of exchange. How you do business within your group. Understand what you're building. It's not a club. We're not talking about a trend. We're talking about building a local, autonomous or semi-autonomous economy. An engine inside the community that you live in that keeps the food moving, keeps the skills growing, keeps the friendships and the solidarity deepening, and keeps the money circulating close to home in your neighborhood. Once you build that, those politicians and the government itself is going to look a lot smaller. And once you've built your own autonomy as a community, then cost of living crises look like exactly what they are, which is nothing but an attempt to train you to accept less than what you can provide for yourselves if you do it together. You can't wait for perfect conditions. You don't have time for that. You can't wait for funding. You don't need funding. You have to start with what you have. Whatever time you have, and the courage to just knock on someone's door and say, let's help each other eat better and spend less. That's leadership. And it spreads, especially when it works. And if someone doesn't want to participate in it because they say, this isn't going to make us free, this isn't going to answer the problem, say, this is going to make us more free than we were last month. That's the only thing you need to worry about. This is what keeps people away from ever taking any initiative in the United States. Because they cannot see that any particular step or any particular action is going to give them a one-time, all-encompassing, be-all, end-all solution. Because that's not a thing that actually exists. You need to just make better. You need to just do better. You need to just improve. You need to improve. You cannot perfect. There are no solutions. There is only struggle for improvement. That's all there is. So today you buy together. Next month, you make together. The month after that, you bring in lentils from a co-op overseas with someone that you met on a video call and paid fairly. And the best part is that your children will learn by watching you. They'll learn that power can be built at scale from a kitchen, from a hallway, from a block, until it actually ends up crossing the ocean. I'm telling you as plainly as I can, you are not helpless and you are not alone. Everybody else is going through the same struggles that you're going through. Your own home, your own house, your own apartment can be the start. Your block can be the start. If you want to line to the farms and the mills of the global south, it begins with a text to your neighbor, to the imam of the masjid. It begins with a list of 3 staple foods that you and your friends and your neighbors use every week, need every week, and you realizing that you don't each have to figure out in isolation how you're going to survive, how you're going to secure for yourself those basic needs, those staple items. See, people keep telling me that, Shahid, you hate the West, you hate America. No, I hate what the West and I hate what America has done. I hate what they've done to the Muslim world, and I hate what they've done to the global South, and I hate what they've done to their own citizens. We're Muslims. We love humanity. We love fairness. We love justice. We love mercy. And we hate oppression, and we hate injustice, and we hate cruelty and greed and exploitation. I hate what that country has done to you because it's horrendous. And I know it's horrendous because they did it to me too. I came up like that. I came up through that. I'm not talking about something that I don't know about and haven't been through, haven't lived through. Like I said, we're Muslims, and it doesn't matter to us if you believe what we believe or not. It doesn't matter to us if you're Muslim or not. You deserve to eat. Islam teaches us that among your God-given rights as a human being is material subsistence. And common sense tells you, basic intelligence will tell you, that if your subsistence is under someone else's control, then I don't care how much you talk about living in the land of the free, you will never have freedom as long as your subsistence is under someone else's control. If you can't secure for yourself and for your community your food, shelter, and basic needs, then that community is nothing but a slave colony. And you're always going to be the slave of the one who has the power, who has the control to provide for you what you need. If you can't provide it for yourselves, then you're going to be the slave of whoever is providing it for you. So when you're ready, we'll help you. Middle Nation will help you. I'll help you. We'll help you write that first message to a trade office. We'll try to help you meet your first producer in the global South if we can. We'll try to help you find ways to set up your first small shipment from an exporter in the global South. I'm not talking about theory. I'm talking about groceries. I'm talking about a sufficiency zone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not command us to accept humiliation. Feeding your own family should not depend on the quarterly guidance of men who earn $16 million a year, more in a day than you earn in a decade. Do you think that the Lord of all the worlds, the Lord of creation, your creator and my creator, Rabbul Alameen, makes our subsistence contingent upon the confidence of shareholders? No, provision is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whoever wants to control the distribution of the provision from Allah is by definition unjust. Our job as Muslims is to obey the truth and organize our lives around it. Well, they have created a whole system that is organized around falsehood. Look, if you can organize 10 households, you can organize 50 households. If you can secure weekly staples for you and your family and your community, you can secure monthly staples. So map your block, map your neighborhood, find out who bakes, who farms, who drives a van, who has a spare freezer, who can do the books, who can negotiate. Put the skills to work and turn your whole block into a single organism. You can build a community in which a mother doesn't need a CEO's permission to feed her children. Now, again, obviously, this is just one form of autonomy. This is just one form of autonomy, because once you build that, once you fortify that, you stabilize that, then you can also deepen it. You can also layer it. You can also expand it. You can explore energy solutions, for example, water sourcing solutions, skill sharing, and so on. Like I say, turn your community into a sovereign ecosystem. There is no reason whatsoever why you can't do this. No reason whatsoever. The only impediments that there are psychological, emotional, and cultural. Yes. The only impediments are the impediments that they programmed into your mind, that they programmed into your heart, that they programmed into your habits. The only impediments are attitudinal. You understand? The pessimism, the defeatism, the antisocial reflexes, the passivity, the docility, the animosity that has been inculcated in you towards your neighbors and towards your fellow citizens. These are all of the things that the power structure implanted in you. Like I say, psychologically, emotionally, and in your habits and so on. But practically, in reality, in the real world, there is no real world reason why you can't do something like this. And there is every real world reason why you need to do this.
Before diving in, let's understand the man behind the message. Shahid Bolsen is known for his unapologetic criticism of Western imperialism, global capitalism, and corporate manipulation. He is not afraid to challenge powerful interests, and he believes that the war for human freedom is no longer fought with guns, but with media, money, and manipulation. Bolsen argues that the same system that once colonized the world through force now does it through economics, marketing, and culture. In his speech directed to Black Americans, Bolsen did not sugarcoat his words. He said plainly, "You are being used. Your identity, your pain, your struggles have become commodities in a global marketplace." According to Bolsen, the world's wealthiest corporations have learned how to weaponize social movement. They fund causes not because they care, but because it helps them control the narrative and keep the system running in their favor. He calls it the illusion of empowerment. It looks like progress, it feels like liberation, but the power still stays in the same hands. Bolsen described the oligarchy, the ultra-rich elite who control industries, banks, and governments as master strategists. They have learned that controlling people's emotion is far more effective than controlling them with laws. He explains, "They do not silence you anymore. They amplify your anger, shape it, and use it. Whenever a new crisis emerges, racial tensions, gender debates, political drama, notice how quickly corporations and politicians take sides. But their loyalty is not just justice, it is to profit. They release symbolic statements, fund selective courses, and pushes campaigns that appear revolutionary but never threaten the system that keeps them rich." Bolsen points out that this is how control evolves. Instead of physical chains, people are now held by digital and economic chains. Bolsen argues that emotional manipulation is the new form of colonization, but keeping people divided, angry at each other, the oligarchs ensure that no one unites against them. "They do not need to silence you," he said, "they just need to keep you shouting in the wrong direction." Every argument online, every trending outrage, every cultural war drains our focus and energy while corporations grow stronger behind the scenes. Bolsen warns that many people are now emotionally addicted to outrage, and these addictions keep them obedient without realizing it. Bolsen's message to Black Americans is especially direct. It reminds the community that they have always been a symbol of global resistance, from slavery to civil rights to Pan-African movement. But today, that powerful legacy is being hijacked by corporations who see it as a marketing opportunity. He said, "They want your culture, not your freedom. They want your influence, not your independence." Bolsen challenges Black Americans to see how the system profits of their creativity, style, and activism while keeping their communities struggling economically. He warns that unless there is economic unity and ownership, the cycle of dependency will continue, just dressed up in modern slogans. Despite his criticism, Bolsen's message is not one of despair, it is one of awakening. He calls on Black Americans and all oppressed groups to reclaim their independence by breaking free from oligarchy influence. Build your own, control your own, stop letting billionaires define your struggle. Bolsen emphasizes create independent media, support Black-owned businesses, educate your youth on economic and consciousness, and most importantly, unite beyond artificial divisions. He insists that real liberations begin with the community, stop asking for permission, and start building its own power. Whether you agree with Shahid Bolsen or not, his words strike a deep chord. They remind us that the world's biggest battles are not just on the street. They are in our minds, our wallets, and our attention. Question is, are we truly free or just playing our part in someone else's game? Because at the end of the day, the greatest revolution is not when we destroy the system, it is when we stop letting the system destroy us. Thank you for watching, guys. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comment box below. Until next time, cheers and have a good one.